a good day here at Friends and Neighbors. I'm Sherry Tatum, your co-host, along with, surprise, my husband, James Roy Tatum.
You just drug me down here, didn't you?
Yes, I did. I needed help.
She needs a little help.
Because Sandra's still in Paris.
Well, I know she's in Paris, and she's having a great time
like
over
we
there.
did, like we did when we went on our mission trip there too.
To the Haitians.
To the Haitians, yeah, in Paris. But you know, Roy, our guest today, Rhonda Robinson, has written a book called Free Fall, and in it is about, I think, about when tragedy strikes, the unthinkable, and like with us, with Chase, when he died just unexpectedly, and we didn't know what to do, where to go, how to, you know, it was devastating.
That kind, when it happens like that, and you're not expecting it, you know, the shock of it is just, it's something. I remember my other son called me, and he said, "Dad, so are you sitting down?" I said, "Well, yeah." I said, "Why?" He said, "Chase just died." It was like,
what do you do?
It's like, what? What do you, say that again to me, you know, that kind of thing. And you go through the pain of that, of losing that child.
The grief.
And it was, I was amazed, you know, it was about 3 months there, you know, that was
it was hard.
Yeah.
And is that why, Rhonda, you wrote Free Fall? Because it says holding on to faith when the unthinkable strikes, and it is unthinkable.
It is.
So tell me a little bit, what is in Free Fall?
Well, Free Fall was written for people who have suffered any kind of life-changing event. For me, like you, it was the death of a son. And free fall's really how I felt. I felt like my whole life was just in free fall, and I felt like everything had come out from underneath me. You know, everything that I thought was my family, who I was, everything was really kind of wrapped up in my vision of being a mom and my children. And so it just shattered me in so many different ways. And so Free Fall, this was, we lost our son in 2008. And so this has been a while. And so I really felt like the Lord had called me to write it. And I know that sounds like a lot of people feel like they're called to write their tragedy, but I actually fought against it very hard.
Really?
Yes, I did not want to write Free Fall.
Had you written a book before?
I've been a writer for a couple of decades, but I wrote on parenting things. I wrote on the culture. I wrote on things that I really enjoyed, and I didn't want to write about the worst day of my life.
So it was hard.
It was very hard.
Was it hard to go back over the events and how it happened and the funeral and all that? Was that what, because you have to remember all that when you write a book.
And that was one of the reasons why I didn't want to write it. When I felt like I felt like the Lord was saying, "Write, you know, you need to write this." I said, "No." No. And I said, I actually was very spiritual about it. I said something to the effect of, "No, and you can't make me." Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Right, yeah. And then I'm sure the Lord said, "Oh, isn't she cute?" We'll see about that.
We'll just see.
We'll see about that. Yeah. But one day, tragedy struck a friend of mine, a dear friend, and her son was killed in a motorcycle accident. And my heart broke all over again. I mean, I knew what she was going through. Right. And I also knew that there's nothing you can say to someone in that kind of grief that can make anything better. You just can't. You can't fix it. You can't help them. But when I was crying out to the Lord, and I just repented, and I said, "I'm sorry." I said, I can't believe that I have been so selfish not to want to revisit my pain in order to help someone else's. And I felt the Spirit say, "You had one person you want to help. I have a whole lot of others."
Oh, yes.
And the nice thing about a book is that when you read a book, you only take what applies to you. So it's not like when a friend tells you something and you're like, "Well, you don't know," you know, or you just read it, and if it applies to you, if it speaks to you, it does, and if it doesn't, it just falls by the wayside. And that's the nice thing about reading a book versus having somebody trying to say the right thing.
Yes.
Because there really is no right thing.
Yeah, that's
I
true.
know that's what we found out. There's just not a right thing to say.
Right.
And you can be there for someone and love them, you know. But I was lost for words.
Yeah.
You know, for him, I didn't know what to do. And I think books like yours are such a great help because it's like you say, they can get alone and read this and be comforted, be helped in some way. But I want to read this, what you wrote in the beginning of your book. It says, in memory of Elijah Daniel Robinson, with your birth, I dreamed that one day you would become I told you I'll cry. A mighty man of God with the faith to walk into the lion's den. With your death, I fell into the lion's den and found the Father's hand to lead me out. To all the parents with child-sized holes in their hearts. That is most beautiful. Rhonda, I think I've ever...
Yeah, because it does leave a hole in your
does.
heart when you lose a child. It's like you say, only God can heal it for you.
Right.
And people will come to you and try to help you. And you appreciate that, but it doesn't make it any better.
Yeah, you're glad they're there in a sense. And then in one way, though, you want to be left alone.
Right.
I think sometimes. So why exactly did you feel like that you had to write this book? Was it because you knew people's lives could be shattered in an instant?
Yes. Well,
We'll both cry here in a moment.
I already am. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, in the midst of, there was a lot of different things that came through. Like I said, it was several years of me struggling, but I honestly didn't know if I was going to survive it. I really didn't. And I remember my daughter telling me about a chance encounter she had with a friend who said that she had also lost a son, and she had also lost a brother, and she said, my mom never recovered. And I thought, yeah, I'm not really sure I will. At that point, I really wasn't. And I've met more people. I met one, and I talk about this one gal in the book, and meeting her was a real turning point too. It was a chance meeting, and I was introduced as also someone who had lost a child. And she says, so tell me, do you survive?
Oh.
Because she said, and then she looked and she says, what about your marriage? Does it survive? Because it's not looking good for mine.
Oh, wow.
And she was just angry. And when she walked away, the gal I was sitting with said, she's not a believer.
Oh.
And I thought, she can't hear God's comfort. She can't hear his words. How do you survive something this heart-wrenching without the great physician?
Oh, God.
How do you do that? And I know that a lot of people lose their faith. They get angry with God.
Yes.
And so that's when they need him the most.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's holding on to faith when the unthinkable strikes. Because what I wanted people to understand is they don't need platitudes. They don't need the trite answers that people give them on why things happen. And I addressed that. But I wanted them to know that God can still be trusted.
Amen.
Yeah.
Well, the tried answers we heard, well, he's better off.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, he's in heaven. He's this, that.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at him like, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm glad that in a sense that he's heaven, but I sure would have liked to have him stayed here a little while longer.
Right.
He was only 34,
Yeah.
you know, and it'd been lovely to have seen him get married and have children and all those things. And so sometimes I think I have learned, just don't say anything, just be there.
Yeah, they can
Be
feel,
there.
yeah, and what I've learned is that the people that were the most comforting to me is who just sat with me.
Yeah.
I could feel their love,
Yeah.
I could feel their strength, and I also really understood the power of somebody actually praying for you.
Oh, yes.
I felt that so much. When people would ask, what can I do for you? And I'd say, pray. Or they would say, they're praying for me. I could feel it.
Yeah.
I could
Yes.
absolutely feel it. And I think people feel like when they offer to pray for somebody, that it seems like a hollow gesture because
It's not enough,
it kind of
yeah.
goes out, you know, because it's kind of given pretty freely. But if they'll follow up
Yeah.
and they'll really do it,
Yeah.
it does.
Because it seems, I think people feel like, well, that's not enough.
Right.
If I just say, I'm going to pray for you, but that's more than enough. That's what
Right.
you need. You need to be uplifted with God, you know, with prayer to God for you to be able to take this, to survive it, and still come out with your faith.
Right.
But tell me, how does one fight to recover after a devastating loss like losing a child or a spouse?
Well,
What did you do?
what did I do? Well, one of the things that I did was I realized that if God came to me and he said, okay, so I got this deal for you. I have this charming boy, blonde hair, blue eyes. He's delightful. He will just brighten your day every day.
Oh, man.
But you only get him for 13 years. And then you will mourn him the rest of your life. Will you take the deal?
Woo.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I would.
Oh, goodness.
So if that's the case, then it was like I almost took the deal posthumously. You know, it's like, if that's the case, then I had to be thankful for the years that I had.
That you had 'em.
Now, when I say that, I don't mean to tell somebody, be thankful for what you had. I had to work at being grateful for what I had, and what that means is not resenting what I couldn't have. That meant,
That's such a thought.
Yeah.
yes,
Oh.
that meant not being angry or feeling cheated because I didn't get to see his grandchildren, that I didn't
Right.
get to see him get married, that that road to what you didn't get,
Yeah.
that's a road to sorrow
Yeah.
and
And it
absolute
is.
despair.
And it is.
Absolutely. It is. And you know, the Bible tells us that, he said, think on things that are lovely, pure, of a good report, things that are virtuous. Think on these things. But when this all first happens, you can't, your mind does go there.
It does.
And you do have to learn, because Roy has said it to me, well, I'm thankful we had him for 34 years.
Yes.
He was with us here, and we got to be with him and do things with him, and, you know, just know him.
Right.
Just to know him. And if you can get there,
Right.
you're on the way to healing.
Yes,
I
that's right.
believe
And
that.
it takes a while, but you know, the truth of the matter is too, I think a lot of people try to get others to heal too fast. They don't give them proper time to be able to mourn what
Mourn
they
it,
lost.
yeah.
Right.
And so there's a time for healing and there's a time for mourning
Yes,
and
absolutely.
absolutely grieving
Yeah.
and just acknowledging what you lost.
Absolutely. And you know, I've heard people say, well, you're just grieving too much, or, you know, this has gone on long enough. Well, how long is long enough?
Yeah, that's
You know, how much is too much grieving?
right.
Those people
Help me
haven't
to-
lost anybody.
Help
so-
me to understand that.
Right.
Because you're standing over here, you're not me.
Right.
You know,
And-
I'm the one that's going through this journey just like you, Rhonda. And that's not helping.
No, it's
That's not
not. And you
helping.
know, people don't really understand, I think, today, I think we're spoiled. We don't understand grief. We don't understand true loss. We just don't. We don't, you know, in times past when you had, you know, devastating wars and people were losing sons in battle, you know, on a daily basis, we grieved almost as a community. We grieved together. We understood. We saw it up close all the time. And now it's not rare,
Yeah.
but it's not a communal type of thing. It's not understood. Instead, we live in a culture that says, pull yourself up by your bootstraps.
That's right.
That's enough. That's enough being sad.
You're good to go.
You know, and so we don't learn the lessons of what grief is.
Amen.
And what it means.
But you know, well, I was going to ask you another question, but I don't have enough time. We've got to take a short break. We're going to come right back, and we're going to be more with Rhonda Robinson about free fall. So stay with us here on Friends and Neighbors. We'll be right back. Okay, Rhonda Robinson, author of Free Fall. Now, tell us, right here it says, can you describe what healthy grief and unhealthy grief looks like? Is there such a thing as that, unhealthy?
Absolutely. Healthy grief looks like tears.
I had plenty of those.
Yeah, it does. It's actually being sad. You know, Scripture tells us that the Lord is near to the brokenhearted.
Yes.
Yes.
And He tells us that it's better to sit in a house of mourning than a house of plenty and
rejoicing.
Yeah. There is something. The Lord draws near us, and that is the time, I think, that I've never felt His presence more, when I absolutely was at my lowest and reached up for Him.
Yes.
Reached for that hand of God. And I think that being sad, crying, because every time, and you may be able to tell me if this is what you experience too, but when you can give in to that, when you do cry and you give it your all, and you get up and you wash your face, you can go a little bit farther before the next time.
Yes.
And it's like a little bit of healing comes, just a little bit. But when you wash your face and stuff it down and go on and, no, I'm good, and put on a face that everything is that is not healthy grieving.
Yeah.
And so, but see, the world gets it backwards.
Right.
Our communities get it backwards. They think that, oh, she's doing good. Look at her. She's she's out and about and doing everything. No, she's not doing good. No, and times past, we used to get to wear a veil over our faces and get to be dressed completely in black, and people would be, okay, I'm not going to invite you to a party.
Right.
I'm not going to ask you to bake 50 cupcakes for school.
Right.
They understood.
Yeah,
But we don't have that anymore.
And people that say, well, you just need to buck up. You need to get over this. You've just been long enough and all that kind of stuff. I just don't get it.
Well, they don't get it. They don't have.
They don't understand.
They don't understand.
They do not understand. But one question, really, I wanted to know, is see how did it affect your family? You have other children.
Yes.
Was your son in the middle, the oldest baby?
He was our youngest son.
The youngest, okay.
And it was devastating for our family. We had 9 children, and he was the youngest boy. We had 5 girls and 3 boys, and we had just 4 left at home. And we had 5 girls in a row, so he was their baby boy.
Oh,
he was the kid that got
carried everywhere. Yeah.
So he was their baby boy too.
Yeah.
And my 16-year-old, my middle son, was actually driving the truck.
Oh no.
And so he was driving, and then they had 2 other boys with them. They were on their way to a Christian school to practice basketball. The 2 oldest boys were driving. Oh, well, my son was driving, and the 2 oldest boys were going for basketball. And they decided that they were going to let their 2 little brothers tag along because they're going to be in high school before long. And so we're going to be good big brothers, and we're going to let them come.
Oh.
And so they did. And when they were on their way, they were T-boned. and my son was killed instantly.
The other one, any others, were they hurt?
They were hurt. Yes, our family suffered the worst and the best of it. The son that was driving suffered a severe concussion. You know, a lot of glass that was embedded that took months and months to get out. And he had a couple surgeries, but the other two boys were in critical condition. They were I think one of them was airlifted out. And so they were in critical condition for a long time, and then we had lost our son, our dad.
Okay, you're going through the loss, but you have your other son also that is needing you.
Right.
How did you do that, Rhonda?
You know, God, it was hard, and I don't pretend to say, you know, we did this all right, or that it was. You know, I wasn't strong. I wish I could sit here and say, well,
me too.
I was the, you know, I was the one that we pilot us through, you know, and no, I fell apart. I think it was the Lord's mercy as far as he was concerned, because he suffered a terrible concussion, and he doesn't really remember a lot of that first year. In fact, we were kind of worried about him because he didn't seem to have a lot of remorse. And when we talk to him now, when he's like, I couldn't comprehend. He said it took him over a year just to comprehend what had happened between the trauma and the concussion. So it was hard on him. It was, and you know, when you have a death like that, the ripple effects affect your family for a long time.
Amen. Well, I like you, I'd like to say that I'm strong, and I'd like to have said that Roy was strong. But it took both of us, what we had, to get through that. So your husband, was he some strength for you at that time?
Absolutely. We made a couple deals, and one of them was when one was absolutely, you know, at their depth, that the other one would be strong. That we didn't get to cry at the same time, very, very often. So because otherwise we felt like, you know, like a drowning man. You know, when you jump in with them, you just pull them underneath, and that's kind of what we figured what would happen. So we would just take turns. And if one would start to go down that road of I didn't get and should have beens and could have beens and whatever, then the other one would pull us back.
And see, isn't that, that's why two is better than one. The Bible says that, because you draw strength, I think, from each other in times like that.
We did that because we had to just hold one another up because it happened so quick. Boom,
Absolutely.
There, and then you can't change it. Nothing can change
There's
that.
nothing can change that. That's final. But the joy of it is, even now I can look back on it and I can vision Chase in heaven, is that one day I'll see him again.
Yes.
And we look at it as he's gone on a long vacation. And one day we'll join him on this vacation. And that's one way we have coped and been able to do this. It's just that, well, he's gone on a long vacation, and I know that sounds kind of silly in a way, but it helped, didn't it? And we're going to be on that vacation with him. But I want you, Rhonda, we're going to come back. We're going to take a break in a moment. But I want you to tell people how they can get in touch with you. And get your book.
Absolutely.
We got about, 50 seconds maybe? 30 seconds. So go.
My website is rhondarobinson.tv.
Okay.
And my book can be ordered through any bookstore, their favorite bookstore, or Amazon, or the publisher. So just about anywhere you like to buy your books, they can find it.
Okay. All right. Well, we're going to take a short break. Like I said, we're going to come back just for a brief ending, but it will be with Rhonda, and we're going to close it out with her telling you what to do. So stay with us here on Friends and Neighbors. I would like to end this show with Rhonda, the author of Free Fall, to give you a word of hope for someone that has had the unthinkable to happen. So let's close the show out with you, Rhonda.
Thank you. Like you said when you read my beginning, that I fell into the lion's den. And I get it. I understand time seems like it's just stood still and the world is going on without you.
Yeah.
And now you're living in a world that you didn't want to live in.
Yeah.
And you're not really sure how to move out,
Yeah.
take that next step. You know you have to, but it's really hard to understand how you're going to. I get it.
Okay, that's okay. We've got to go. We've got to end the show. But we hope you got some help. No, in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.